Welcome everyone to Tripp's art class. Today I want to talk to you about not only drawing from reference, but drawing what you see instead of what you think you see. A big mistake that a lot of beginning artists make is even with a reference right in front of their face, they still just try to draw from memory instead of actually looking and studying the reference and drawing from what they see. So today's reference is going to be something fun and simple. It is a character that I created a while ago, and it's a very simplistic character which is going to help us really study the simple and basic lines. So for this character right here, if I were to draw this, and this was my reference, and I really wanted to draw this, I would have to focus on a lot of specific details. I'm not going to just look at this character once and begin to draw it. A lot of beginning artists do that though. They might look at it and go, oh, okay, it's kind of like that, and here's his eye, and then his hair goes like that, and he has a neck, and there's his arms, and his body, and they do that, and they go, oh, there it is. But when they do that, they're really not looking at the references. They're not paying close attention to what's actually there. So we're going to not ever do that and delete that and really focus on this character. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my lead to blue lead. That way it can be seen on the actual reference as well. So I'll be sketching in blue lead. You don't have to do that. This is just to make it easier for you to see. So as I begin to draw this character, first line, I like to begin somewhere. I'm going to begin right here on that line. See that line? It kind of comes from top right to the bottom left. So before I do that, I'm going to kind of position things. What I kind of notice is here is there's kind of like a bean shape for the head. Kind of see a line for the neck, and then almost kind of like a rectangle for the body. Okay, and if you can see that, it's probably barely there on your paper, and that's fine. So that's just to kind of show me where things are going to be. Maybe his legs will be right here. His hands right there. That's just so I don't end up running off the paper here. Okay, so I'm just kind of very, very, very loosely throwing in some shapes. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and begin like right here on that line and really try to emulate that line there. So I notice it kind of comes down from top right to bottom left, kind of like that. And what's so great about pencil is that you can just mold it. If you make a mistake, you don't have to stress out too much. You just keep going. You have that eraser handy, but you don't have to grab it every 2 seconds. And then I'm going to really look at this neck here. How is this neck drawn? That's just a little line like that. And if I notice the other lines, another little line. So I'm paying very, very close attention here to the most small detail. I notice this line starts to go up right when it leaves the neck. So I'm really, really studying the reference here. I'm staring at this reference and kind of critiquing what I'm drawing. Every time I draw something, I'm saying, is it like the reference? Does it look like the reference? Is there anything in it that I can find that's different from the reference? And right now I'm just focusing on this line right here. See that line? I'm really focusing on that line. And that's why great art takes a great amount of time, because you're just focusing on one line, where someone who's not an experienced artist might just kind of go like that and just draw a quick line. But to make it realistic and exact, we gotta really examine it. Some of my beginning art students that I've had before, their problem with art is that they don't put in time. They just expect to be able to do something like this in like 10 minutes. So now I'm going to look at that shoulder. Looking at that line right there. Now look at this line. This line just kind of drops down more. this one doesn't drop the same. So I'm looking at the smallest detail. From there, let's go ahead and maybe put in the first spike. I'm looking at this line right here. So I am going to emulate that line as closely as possible. I'm not thinking about any other line, I'm just focusing on that line. Making sure I went out high enough or long enough. And then we'll go ahead and work on this line right here. And then we'll focus on this line right here. And then this line. And what you're thinking, if you're new to art, you might be thinking, man, that's not fun, that's just a lot of work. Like, I thought it was magic, like I just snap my fingers and cool art appears. And it's like, well, no. It takes time. You might be thinking, well, when I look at art online, I don't see all the time that people put in. I know, you don't. Some artists even like to trick you and act like they only did it in a few minutes. Have you ever talked to an artist like that? You're like, man, that's really neat artwork. And they're like, oh yeah, I just sketched it out real fast. Oh, I just did that on my free time. And you're like, no, you didn't. You put in a lot of serious work in that. Okay, so this part, this line, I'm going to kind of look and see where it comes down to. So it comes down to maybe this area right there. Okay. I'm going to make sure I pull it down far enough. And it looks like this line kind of comes here. So this is my initial sketch. Of course, I'm going to go back and clean it up a little bit. It's not going to be perfect the first time around. We'll pull this line down here. Okay, so as you can see, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. And I don't want to spend 2 or 3 hours on this because I don't think you guys will watch a video that is that long. But what I'm hoping that you can see here is that every single line I'm focusing on. And I'm paying close attention to every single line. And that's what we have to do when we're drawing with a reference. Now, I've already seen some students' artwork this school year where I can see that, I can recognize the character. But I can see that they clearly did not focus on every single line. They probably got a little bit, too excited or maybe a little bit too lazy or something happened where they did not focus on every single little line. And the same thing here, like I could put so much more time into each one of these lines. And then we'll go ahead and work on the mouth. Go ahead and work on the teeth. I'll add those. And then there's a little scar. Now, a lot of students would just kind of make a little line, but we really need to look at this reference. Look, it comes down and it curves around a little bit. It kind of comes back down. So you really want to make things exact. So you got to pay close attention to that. Some students would just kind of draw some random marks, but we're going to pay close attention here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I'm paying close attention to every little stitch here in this character's face. 1, 2, where's this one at? 3, and this one's here. It's 4. So then I'm going to go ahead and draw the eyebrows. As you can see, it comes up here, and oops, I messed up on that one. It comes up, and then it kind of comes down like that. And this one does the same. So looking at this right here, I can kind of continue and move on and move on. But what I want you guys to really focus on is when you draw from a reference, truly draw from a reference. Now, is this perfect right now? No. I'm already seeing mistakes right here. I feel like this needs to be kind of dropped down a little bit lower. Okay. Need to fix that, and I feel like this line needs to come out just a little bit more, and maybe I need to pull this out a little bit more here. Okay, I need to stretch it out. So those are little things I can go back and fix. I can pull out my eraser and just really continue to mold those out so they are the right way. Okay, or they are accurate. So that's what I would do now to continue this drawing, and just to really focus on those details, and then I would go through and follow through for the rest of the body. But without boring you for the next 2 to 3 hours drawing everything perfectly, what I want you guys to all focus on is when we draw from a reference, we need to draw from that reference. We really need to pay attention to every single little line, break it up line by line, every single one. Really pay attention. How does that line work? Does it go down, over, and then curve? This curves and then comes in. This curves. Every single little curve, every single line. You guys can all draw a line. I know that. You can all draw a line. So you can also tell when a line is off. So when you are drawing from a reference and you don't do that, when it doesn't look like the reference, or it's not accurate, it's because you're not focusing enough on those lines. You're not putting in the true amount of work that it requires. You're just trying to get by. And in this is an official art class to train you to be an artist in case you want to be a professional artist someday. So we're not interested in just creating something that kind of looks like the reference, or we can look at the reference and think maybe that's what you drew, but we want it to be identical to the reference. We want your accuracy to be that strong in this art. So it does take time. So some of these drawing assignments you do in my class, they might seem simple, they might seem not to take up a lot of time, but when you do them correctly, they really do, especially when we go back and we really start to polish those up and make them the right way. Now, some students in my class, they are doing this. I can tell that they are really focusing in on all of their lines, and they're just nailing it. Okay, so good job for you students, man. You're doing great, and I see some of your work and it's like so accurate, and I can tell you're putting in the time to really study your reference. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, is to draw what you see, not what you think you see. Okay, to draw exactly what you see, line by line. We're talking about line right now with the elements of art. Eventually we'll be talking more about shape. Okay, I got into that a little bit with the bean shape of this character. We'll be talking more about that later, but right now I really want you to focus on making sure every single line you draw from a line reference is accurate. If it's not, fix it. We're using pencil, and because we're using pencil, it is changeable. We can erase it, we can mold it, we can configure it by drawing loosely and then making your lines dark. If you're drawing dark lines to begin with, this is going to be a nightmare for you. Okay, that's why we really have to sketch for this assignment. So I wanted you all to understand that, to draw what you see. Don't draw what you think you see. Draw what is actually there, line by line. It's going to take some time, but this will teach you patience. It'll develop your patience, and it will make you into a better and maybe even a professional artist someday. Thanks for hanging out with Tripp's art class. I'll catch you later.